he was just that chronic. But when he tried an apartment, he couldn't cook. He was just cognitively not able to survive, and we could see that there. We could see that he was eating raw food out of a can and, unhealthy habits, and then make a decision rather than drop him off at a shelter and have him back on the street because they wouldn't have had to put up with it.
A problem with the way of with the solution of housing first, the way it's being implemented, is HUD is now taking money out of services to put it into housing. Mm-hmm. There's certainly enough money that's being wasted on other things. You could do both.
Mm-hmm. But cities are tearing down the housing.
See, yeah, that's the, and there again, see, we're hoping that, of course, I don't want to change the subject, but because I want to stay on homelessness, but we have we have this election, whether we get a strong mayor or not, they're changing the, hopefully they think they're going to change the charter for this city and go with a strong mayor. If they do, I said that if that changes, I'm going to run for mayor next year, right? But one of the programs, one of the things that I would focus on is getting our homeless out of shelter and into homes that are available here that need reconditioning. And you could put people in, like they did years ago in Boston and the Brownstones, and put people who could need housing into those places and not destroy them, not tear them down. What little monies you could get would still help the city to defray costs and stuff like that. So there are programs, just like you said, that that you could put people. Your focus needs to be putting them in to housing.
And you need to be able to stand up to opposition. I'm 72 years old, and I live in a senior housing development in Cambridge, Mass. I have an apartment.
Right.
It's senior housing, owned by the Cambridge Housing Authority. When the Cambridge Housing Authority gets money to build a development, they go to the neighbors. Okay, we're going to build it here, right? They go to the neighbors, and you know what the neighbors say? If we have to have it, we want seniors.
Right.
Okay, so now, you know how long it took me after I signed up to get senior housing? 2 weeks. Because there's plenty of senior housing available, and there's nothing available
for.
Right. So somebody had to stand up to those neighbors and say, you know what, move if you want. We're building public housing here.
Right. Well, again, Crystal Avenue has which they want to tear down. Instead of going in there and fixing it up and straightening it out, which can happen, it's happened other places, and make it nice, livable, moderate housing for people, they don't do it. It's the group that lets it run down. It's just like Tambria said, there are parts of the city where you have very low income housing where they don't clean the streets, they don't take care of it. It's because some of the people need to be taught that you need to do that. You have people that...
when the cruise ships come in here, Public Works makes it a point of cleaning downtown spot.
Oh, yeah, so it's...
But they don't clean the rest of the city ever.
Right.
Like that.
You're talking about New London or Norwich?
New London.
New London.
Okay.
New London. Yeah.
We have these large cruise ships come in. They fill the river. They're huge. And the day they come, Public Works is doing overtime, sweeping and polishing up the downtown area to get the tourists.
So it isn't a question of the city keeping the well-off areas like spick and span and neglecting the poor areas. The whole city's neglected.
They neglect the city as far as repairs, sidewalk repairs, that kind of thing, but they don't neglect like they do in the federal housing communities where they don't appear to do anything. You see the trash blowing down the streets. It's like a ghost town. It's just, you wonder if anyone ever goes through there because it's so bad.
Right. Yeah.
It's just obvious. You turn the corner and it's like, whoa, I don't want to be here.
Right, and the next step from there is to go to the shelter.
And then downtown, the encouragement to turn the apartments that are downtown. I used to rent downtown for $500 a month here in New London. What New London is encouraging the building owners to do is to renovate those apartments and rent them for, $1,000, $1,500, or sell them as condos. Why in the world would you want low-income housing downtown?
Yeah.
I can't afford those new apartments they're doing, and I work full-time.
No, so what we're doing though is we're doing exactly what Jack says. We're creating a situation.
Oh, yeah.
It's passive aggressive behavior. It's just,
No, creating it in like just it's so criminal. Excuse my if I get too like dramatic here, but it's absolutely in my mind it's absolutely criminal to be spending money on things like war, things like a war on drugs, which is absolutely like a failure. Been a failure from the beginning, it's a failure now. The rate of addiction when the war on drugs was declared was 1.3% of the population. After putting 2 million people in prison, the rate of addiction is 1.3.
Same thing.
It's exactly the same thing. $69 billion a year is spent on that. If you took a piece of that and built affordable housing with it, you would solve the problem of homelessness overnight. It'd be the end of it.
If you legalize the drugs, we could tax it, and we'd also earn money that way. Yeah, anybody who's been understands that, justice system people, everything else that has been involved with that for years, that's what they say. You need to legalize it. It's ridiculous what we're doing and everything, and take out the profit from the criminals and put it where. Put the taxes on it, and then we could deal with it, and we could deal with the addictions and everything else. But that's making sense out of stuff. And also, if we did that, we'd put people out of work. It's the same argument for the prisons. Okay, if we could change the prison system, which we know through certain ways that you change it, you give people jobs, you give them housing, you give them hope, the person's going to change. Why would we do that? Because it's providing jobs for people who probably couldn't get a job anyplace else if they weren't keeping people locked up. The same with Pine Street. How do you go against a major political entity, as you went against, that was founded? It's a nice idea. It's a do-good thing. You're doing the nice thing. You're saving people's lives. It's cold out there, so let's build a shelter and make an institution out of it. We had one, and I put part of it.
It developed.
I know.
It did not start out as an institution.
No, I know it.
And it started out on a little street, in Chinatown, called Pine Street.
Pine Street, right.
And then they moved it to a much bigger building over on Harrison Ave. And they started getting money, and now once there was money there, then people who were not the least bit interested in the homeless were attracted over there because of the money.
Well, I get a lot of heat because obviously Tambria and we were the ones who, and many others that helped found the Hospitality Center, which is turning into that. You called it a political entity that it's become. The people who it was supposed to be for individuals who with self-determination, run by people who wanted to get out of the situation. And I'm on the other side saying I made some serious mistakes.
Okay,
I made some serious mistakes. Obviously, if you're coming out of prison, the last place I want you to be in this city is hanging around a shelter where the drugs are being sold, where crime is happening, needles in the street, and I don't want it where it's going to affect my community.
Across the street from a school.
Across the street from a school. So now I have people who I started with, of course, are very angry because they're saying, Father, how can you say that? Well, it isn't what it was intended to be. A temporary situation to get people off the streets temporarily, get them into housing, and get them moving. What it's becoming is an institution, as you said.
It's it's an emergency solution to a problem which is long ago ceased to be emergent.
Right.
It's chronic.
Right.
So an emergency solution to a chronic problem is like a contradiction in terms.
So we need permanent housing, and that's the whole thing.
It's the only solution.
How do you convince, when you go out and do your political action, how do you convince people that housing is a civil right? Because that's been argued.
Well, you start out with the fact that it's certainly a human right. Certainly a human right. If I live in a wealthy society, where there's enough money for you to own a 100-foot yacht, which I don't begrudge you if you you can do it. Well, then you know what? You have a noblesse oblige. It really does. You have a responsibility to take care of the common welfare, and that includes people nowhere near as well off as you. They're nowhere near. So it's a human right.